But I found myself thinking too much about food all the time. And then if I did eat more, then I would have this guilt and this shame. It made me feel like I was still not enough, and thinking, oh my gosh, if I went over my calories this day, even if it was over by 50 calories, you know, bad, because I associate being bloated with being bad. And I remember saying to my mom, I am really struggling with food right now, and like I'm really like obsessed with food, because I felt like it was a me problem, like I was bad because I couldn't track macros. I was like, okay, you can't be trusted, you need to get back on counting calories. Tracking macros caused me to be eating in such a stressed state. The past few weeks have been really bad, and that's where I want to be open and honest. Sometimes I struggle with wanting to have everything figured out perfectly before I talk about it, but I've realized also talking about it as I'm working through it can be very powerful. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Madison if you're new here. Today's video is a little bit more honest, open, and raw because I have been struggling a little bit recently, and normally I choose to struggle on my own and try and figure things out on my own, but I've realized that sometimes it's good to share with others because you might not be the only one struggling with this. So today I'm going to be talking about tracking macros and my struggles that I've faced and the conclusion that I've finally come to after years of on and off tracking macros. I thought that I would start by sharing a little bit about my story and why I started tracking macros, just so you can understand a little bit of the background and experience that I've had. So I originally started tracking macros, I believe in 2021. It was like right when I was starting my fitness journey. And I was like, okay, I want to take things a little bit more serious. And so the influencers that I followed at the time were KK Fit. And so I was like, okay, they track macros, I'm gonna track macros. I tracked for a few weeks. I had like calculated my maintenance and then did a cut, and I was doing this, but I found myself thinking too much about food all the time. Like especially at dinner time, I would log my food and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like I can't eat anything else today, otherwise I'll be going over my macros. And I did that for a few weeks, and I was like, okay, I am thinking so much about food. Like I don't like this, like it's kind of consuming all of my thoughts, and I would get really worked up. Like even if I was full, I would psych myself out by thinking I can't eat anything else today, and then it would make me want to eat because I was feeling nervous. And like some days I wouldn't, but some days I would eat more. And then if I did eat more, then I would have this guilt and this shame because I knew that I went over my macros. I had only tracked for a few weeks, and I was like, you know, I think I'm not gonna track. So I didn't track for the rest of 2021. When I started dating my last boyfriend, he wanted to do a cut. So I was like, okay, I'll get back into tracking again and I'll do a cut. And so we started tracking in January of 2022. I did a little cut and my calories weren't too low. I think the lowest, okay, if calorie numbers trigger you, then skip this part, but I'm gonna say calorie numbers. The lowest that I had went down to was 1800, which is not too low, but I was very active, and it was too low for me because I was constantly thinking about food all the time. So we tracked from January to May, and I stayed in this deficit, and I work in a restaurant, I still do. So when I was tracking, I was like, okay, I can't eat anything from the restaurant because I need to know the oils and like all of like the small calories. So even when I started at a new restaurant, they're like, okay, we need you to try some of the foods. And I was like, I can't because I don't know how to track them, and like my calories need to be like perfect, pristine. Fast forward to May or June of 2022, my boyfriend broke up with me, and he listed off a bunch of different reasons. One of the many reasons that he said was that I wasn't lean enough for him, and he thought that a leaner physique looked better and that my butt was too big. That comment didn't hurt me, but the lean ones did, because at that point I was very small. I was the smallest that I had ever been. Because I think when I started my weight loss journey, I was like 160 pounds. And at this point when he said this to me, I was 136. So I had lost a good amount of weight, and I was the smallest I had ever been. But for him to say that to me, it made me feel like I was still not enough. And it made me really insecure about my body. Fast forward a little while, and I can touch more on this time in my life in a different video because I do think it's very important. because they did change the trajectory of my life and the things that I was consumed with for so long, up until this year when I started going to therapy and working through some of them. So I will do a separate video on that. Anyways, that summer I tracked a little bit off and on. I was noticing again that I was becoming too obsessed with the calories in the foods and thinking, oh my gosh, if I went over my calories this day, even if it was over by 50 calories, I was thinking to myself, oh my gosh, you're gonna wake up bloated tomorrow, and if you wake up bloated tomorrow, people are gonna think that you're fat, and if people think that you're fat, you're gonna be a fake fitness influencer, and if you're a fake fitness influencer, that is the end of the world. These were just like the thoughts that would spiral, and I found myself getting very consumed in them. And so anytime I would go over my calories, even the slightest bit, I would freak myself out. So I knew that that wasn't what I wanted, and so I stopped tracking for a little bit. I did get back together with that boyfriend for another 3 months, which is a whole other story. But in September of 2022, we officially broke up and we were done. And I remember saying to my mom, I was like, I am really struggling with food right now. And like, I'm really like obsessed with food, because I would be good all day and then I would come home and have these crazy binges. And it wasn't like I was eating like cookies and ice cream and stuff. I was eating like protein oatmeal and fruit and yogurt bowls, but I felt like I was eating so much of it because I was going over my calories. Looking back, I feel like my body was so hungry and it just wanted to have more food and more fuel for all the workouts that I was putting it through. But I was just blaming myself and feeling like I wasn't mentally strong enough to be tracking macros, and I felt like it was a me problem, like I was bad because I couldn't track macros. Anyways, stopped tracking from October of 22 until January of 2023, and this is where things get really dicey, because in that time off I was allowing myself to eat intuitively, which I was loving. But then I did an in-body scan, which was my first ever in-body scan in January of 2023, and I've talked about this part of my story in my podcast episode, so I'll keep this like a short summary. If you want to go listen to the full summary, I will link my podcast episode. But I did an in-body scan at this point in time, and I had put on weight. I was also training very heavy, because I went from training like moderate weight to training heavy weightlifting, and so I had built a lot of muscle, but I had also, put on some fat. And since I wasn't tracking, I associated that with, you can't be trusted because you got fat again. And since I was so, first of all, I was never fat, but I was so insecure about what my boyfriend had, or my ex-boyfriend had said to me about that I wasn't lean enough, that like the idea of putting on weight was really scary for me, and it made me feel seen, and it made me feel like everyone was making fun of me for trying to be a fitness influencer, but when I was actually fat. These are the things that I was telling myself and that I was believing. And so I was like, okay, you can't be trusted. You need to get back on counting calories. So I started tracking again in, I think it was March of 2023, right after my current boyfriend, the one that I have now, and I love him so much, he was leaving for work. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna really focus on me this time. So I went all in on my macros, and I started becoming obsessed again, tracking every single thing, and it got extreme again. And at that point in time, I was also training with my friend, and her and I would go do these in-body scans together. I would be dropping my calories, and she would too, but it seemed really easy for her, and for me, I was like obsessed with food. Like it was all I could think about. And we would go do our in-body scans together, and she would drop a significant amount of weight, and I would be the same or slightly lower, but I was never like making good progress like her. And I felt like, okay, I'm failing again. I need to track harder. I need to train harder. But I was working out so hard, and I really was sticking to my macros. But I think it was the foods that I was eating and the way that I would eat, and which I'm gonna talk about later in this video, because tracking macros caused me to be eating in such a stressed state. I'll touch on that in a second. But I've gone back and forth with tracking macros. In December of 2024, I decided to stop tracking again, because I was like, I'm having a really hard time. I'm becoming obsessive again. And so from beginning of this year, January 2025, until August of 2025. I didn't track at all. And I was also navigating like my fitness journey and like the things that I wanted to do with my workouts. And I tried Pilates, I tried yoga, I did all of that. So I was in just like a transition phase. But as I've been going through therapy and healing some of these wounds that I had from like my ex-boyfriend telling me that I needed to be leaner and all of that, I was like, okay, like maybe I can think about food now not as a punishment, so maybe I can track again. So I started tracking macros again in August, and it was really good, honestly, for the first 6 weeks. Like I was in a slight deficit, nothing crazy. I was still eating a good amount of food. My workouts were feeling good. I was feeling good. But the past few weeks have been really bad, and that's where I want to be open and honest, because I had a few realizations. So the first day that I noticed it was getting really bad is when I couldn't fully track my macros, because I usually eat everything at home so I can know what I'm eating. And there was a day where I went out to eat for something, or like I had like a coffee out or something, and it threw me for a loop, because I was like, well, I can't track that accurately, so I might as well just not track the whole day, because I feel like it's a waste. It's not a waste, but I found myself getting a little bit obsessive with that. And then it's nice to like do like portion control, or like weigh out some things for like rice or proteins to like make sure like you're getting enough carbs and enough protein in your diet. But when it becomes like it needs to be the exact number or I'm gonna go crazy, that's when it gets a little bit extreme. I mentioned the comment about like feeling stressed about waking up bloated, because to me being bloated meant that I was fat, and if I was fat, people thought that I was a fake fitness influencer, and that really hurt my ego, I guess. I don't even know. But I have had a few moments recently, one of them being this past Saturday, where I ate over my macros, and I was in a deficit for the first 7 weeks, and then I started getting really hungry, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna up my calories, because I want to fuel my body and listen to my body and give myself the chance to track at maintenance, because whenever I track, it's usually to be in a cut. And I was like, I want to track at maintenance and like fuel, ow, babe, that's my hair, and like fuel my body. And so I've been slowly bumping up my calories, and so I'm getting closer to maintenance, but I'm still like in a phase where I was like losing a little bit of weight. And this past weekend, I had like a day on Saturday where I hit my macros, and then I came home and I was still hungry. So I was like, okay, I want to make some protein pancakes. So I made protein pancakes. So then the pancakes were really good, but then I was stressed because I did track it to see like how much I had that day. I was like, oh my gosh, you went over your macros by like 300 calories. You're gonna wake up bloated tomorrow. And then my boyfriend came home with Chipotle. I was like, oh, screw it. You've already gone over your macros. You might as well have this too, because you're already gonna wake up bloated tomorrow and look at. And I wasn't even hungry for the Chipotle, but I crushed that whole Chipotle bowl, and I ended up feeling so bad about it. And I have felt bad about it since, because on Sunday, the whole day, I didn't even want to go to the gym because I didn't want to be seen, because I felt like I was so bloated. The reason that I share this is because I've learned that our minds and our bodies are connected. And if I'm in my mind all the time anticipating I'm going to wake up bloated tomorrow and like causing myself to feel that stress and anxiety, I probably will wake up bloated tomorrow. And also realizing that just because I wake up bloated does not mean that I'm failing. It means my body's trying to communicate something to me, whether it's, okay, you may have eaten more than your body needed that day. Maybe my body doesn't agree with the foods that I ate, but being able to see it as a way that my body's communicating with me and not as like a, ooh, like I'm failing type of thing. I touched on this a little bit earlier, but one thing that happens when I track macros is I become very like stressed and anxious when I'm eating. And so I will like measure out my whole plate of what I'm gonna eat, and then I will eat the whole thing because I feel like it's all that I can eat. And so I'm in that mindset of scarcity and lack. I will eat, like I will inhale the food, not chewing it very well, and then I end up getting really full, really bloated, and I'm like, oh, well, you ate too much, you are, you know, bad, because I associate being bloated with being bad. And I just realized the more that I track macros, the more stressed I get about food, even if it was a tool in the beginning to like make sure I was fueling my body enough and like to understand how my body reacts to certain foods, and it was very helpful. But I just realized I am someone that gets too obsessed with it, and that does not make me bad, and that does not make you bad if you are the same as me, where tracking macros can become obsessive. It's not that you're failing, it's just that this is not for you, and there's other ways to take care of your body and lose weight and maintain weight loss and enjoy a healthy lifestyle without being so consumed about food. Because I know for me, I don't want to constantly be tracking macros for the rest of my life. I also don't want to be obsessed with food the way that I have been. And I find that whenever I track macros, I become more obsessed with food. And again, I used to see it as like a you are failing type of thing. Like you are not strong enough to track macros. I don't even know why I would tell myself that, but that is what I believed. And it just seems like something that, you know, as a fitness person, like I should be promoting and tracking macros, but it doesn't work for me. And I have realized I don't want to keep trying to do something and promote something because it's what a lot of other people do. Like if it doesn't work for me and if I don't feel good doing it, I don't have to do it and I don't have to promote that. Realizing like the tracking macros is putting me in such a stressed state around food that like I couldn't even sit and like enjoy a meal because I would just munch through it so fast, and then I would be mad at myself because I couldn't slow down, and then I would feel so painfully full and bloated because I didn't chew my food, I just like inhaled it. Sorry if the camera angle moved, my battery died, so I needed to change it out. I am sharing this story because I realized I am not the problem. It's just that tracking macros is not for me, and that's okay. And I used to be so hard on myself and tell myself I needed to be mentally stronger, I needed to be more disciplined, I needed to do all of these things. But I realized in my fitness journey, when I had the most success and the most fun with it, I wasn't tracking macros and I wasn't obsessed with every little thing I was doing. So I could go out and do something outside of the house and not freak out about, ooh, like how many calories were in that. Because as long as I was making a decision or like a choice that felt healthy and aligned with me and what I wanted to do, then I should feel fine about it. And I did feel fine about it in the past. Looking back at all of the times that I was tracking and I realized how obsessed I would get, I was like, okay, this is not for you and that's okay. And realizing that also fitness is something that you're gonna do for the rest of your life, and you want to have healthy habits that you want to maintain forever. Because the way that I look at it is like if you don't want to do that for more than one day, don't waste your time trying to do things like that because it's not going to be sustainable. I figured now is the perfect time to figure out how I like to go about eating intuitively and just trusting my body to tell me what I need to eat and what I need to eat, and not being so mean to myself all the time about food, because it's something that I have just struggled with a lot. And I know I'm not the only one that struggles with this. I know I appreciate when people are open and authentic about it, because it can be so, it's very deceiving on social media when you see all these influencers doing all these things so seamlessly and so perfectly. And I know that I struggle so much with some of these things, and I want to be open and honest about it and not be portraying like it comes easy to me and that, you know, I don't struggle with these things, because that's not at all true. If you also struggle with tracking macros and you become too obsessed with it, that's okay, okay? It is just, it's not meant for you, and that's okay. There's other ways to understand, you know, nutrition and, you know, protein and healthy fats and good carbs and fueling your body without being so obsessed with the numbers. As I continue to figure out what works best for me, I will share it with you guys, because I want to help everyone else out there that is also struggling with it. And sometimes I struggle with wanting to have everything figured out perfectly before I talk about it, but I've realized also talking about it as I'm working through it can be very powerful and a good way to connect with others that are also struggling with it, and to just learn from other people as well. So if you have struggled with this, or if you are struggling with this, let me know down below or send me a DM on Instagram, because I would love to just connect with you and talk more about it. Yeah, I just want you to know you're not the only one that struggles with this, and you're not wrong for not being able to track without being obsessive. That is all that I have for today's video, and thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. I am very grateful for all of you. If this video resonated with you, let me know, thumbs up this video, and I will be doing more videos talking about topics like this. So thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.